Between Christopher Nolan's new movie Tenet attempting to save cinema, the surge of people buying Bane masks right now, and the fact that Robert Pattinson's The Batman is currently mid-production, it's quite the time to reflect upon one of Nolan's most epic undertakings to date, The Dark Knight Rises. Released in July 2012 to incredible fan anticipation, the superhero threequel had the tough task of following up the most acclaimed superhero movie of all time in The Dark Knight. 8 years on, it remains a thunderously entertaining, technically splendid offering, albeit one which has perhaps never quite escaped the shadow of its endlessly dissected, impossibly iconic predecessor. However, despite its popularity, we've pored over a ton of behind-the-scenes tidbits from its massive production and uncovered some interesting, unusual details about the successful sequel. I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 20 things you didn't know about The Dark Knight Rises. Number 20. Christopher Nolan was extremely reluctant to return for a third movie. After the astronomical success of The Dark Knight, Warner Bros. Were eager for director Christopher Nolan to return with a sequel as soon as possible, though he was initially intensely reluctant to helm a third film in the series, hence the 4-year wait. Nolan famously said in an interview, quote, "On a more superficial level, I have to ask the question, how many good third movies in a franchise can people name?" End quote. Worried that he would agree to a third film only to become bored during production, Nolan only accepted the gig after first coming up with a story he considered worthwhile. The basic plot outline was set by 2009 before Nolan went off to shoot Inception, but wasn't actually translated into a completed script until much later. Number 19. The cast were only told of the movie's ending verbally. While the film was shooting, fans were rapidly speculating about how the Dark Knight saga would wrap up, and so in order to avoid spoilers leaking out, Nolan opted to only tell the cast members the ending of the movie verbally. Though crucial plot pages were traditionally printed on impossible to photocopy paper, the then recent advent of high-quality smartphones meant that more drastic measures had to be taken. And so, by merely speaking the details of the ending to the cast, there was no way for script pages to magically go missing and end up online. It certainly paid off though, as unlike several other big moments in the movie, that final passage was firmly kept under wraps until release. Number 18. Warner Bros. Originally wanted Nolan to cast Leonardo DiCaprio as the Riddler. After The Dark Knight was propelled to major critical and commercial success off the back of Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker, Warner Bros. Initially hoped that Nolan would give a similarly gritty reinvention to another iconic Batman foe, the Riddler. Further still, the studio encouraged the director to have Leonardo DiCaprio play the supervillain, hoping he would be cast following their successful collaboration on Nolan's prior film Inception. Ultimately, Nolan, who has an uncommon amount of creative sway due to his impeccable winning streak at the box office, refused the studio's suggestion. He instead decided that he wanted an antagonist who was a far cry from the villains of the two prior movies, particularly a character with a more overt physical presence, hence Bane. Number 17. Tom Hardy accepted his role without reading the script. Despite the role of Bane representing a major commitment for Tom Hardy, the actor signed on to play the iconic supervillain without even reading the film's script. In addition to his presumed trust in Nolan after playing a supporting role in Inception, Hardy was also verbally informed that he'd have unlimited access to as much stunt training and equipment as he desired, allowing him to fully get immersed in the physicality of his hulking character. And honestly, if there's any director you're going to team with before you've even read a script, there are few safer bets than Nolan. And considering that Hardy's performance was one of the most acclaimed aspects of the movie, you can't fault the logic here. Number 16. It was Nolan's first movie in a decade to receive no Oscar nominations. Despite its critical and commercial success, The Dark Knight Rises didn't quite make the same cultural impact that its predecessor did, and despite many crying foul that The Dark Knight should have received a Best Picture Oscar nomination, its sequel didn't even earn a single nod from the Academy at all. At the time of its release, this made The Dark Knight Rises only the second major Batman movie after Batman and Robin to receive no Oscar nominations, and worse still, it was Nolan's first movie since 2002's Insomnia to receive zero attention from the Academy. While its lack of major award noms is mostly fair enough, the fact that the film's impressive below-the-line work, namely its visual effects, production design, and cinematography, missed out on nominations as well is really quite baffling. Number 15. The first draft of the script was 400 pages long. Though the film shooting script runs in at a beefy 164 pages, almost a minute per page as is typical for screenplays, the first draft of the script, completed by Christopher Nolan's brother Jonathan, was an insane 400 pages long. Sadly, neither of the Nolans have elaborated much on what those extra 200 plus pages accounted for. Beyond the director claiming it had all of this crazy stuff in it. Given the filmmaker's famously clandestine nature, it's unfortunately extremely unlikely that the epic early draft will ever make its way online, but he is hoping anyway. Number 14. Anne Hathaway thought she was auditioning for Harley Quinn. Anne Hathaway was roundly praised for her performance as Selina Kyle, aka Catwoman, but the casting process for the part was so top secret that she wasn't even told upfront which character she was actually auditioning for. In a recent interview, the actress revealed that she actually thought she was trying out for the part of Harley Quinn, and hilariously tailored her audition to that end. She said, quote, "I came in and I had this lovely Vivienne Westwood kind of beautiful but mad tailoring top with stripes going everywhere. And I wore these flat jokery looking shoes, and I was trying to give Chris these crazy little smiles, and about an hour into the meeting he said, 'Well, I'm sure I don't have to tell you this, but it's Catwoman.' And I was shifting into a different gear. Now, okay, we're slinky, and I hate my shirt, I love my shirt, but not right now, we're slinky," end quote. Number 13. Nolan considered shooting the entire movie in IMAX. Nolan has been one of cinema's greatest proponents of IMAX filmmaking throughout his career, with The Dark Knight being the first major Hollywood movie to shoot prominent sequences in the format. You could say he's got a bit of a thing for it. Though The Dark Knight featured a whopping 28 minutes of IMAX content, Nolan consulted with his Oscar-nominated cinematographer Wally Pfister to up the ante considerably for this sequel, to the extent that the pair even considered shooting the entire movie in the format. Ultimately, it was decided that such a task would be too daunting and limiting due to the noisiness of the cameras, which typically require dialogue to be redubbed in post-production. And so Nolan and Pfister's compromise was to shoot only 72 minutes of the film, that's well over 40% of it by the way, in IMAX. Though it's now becoming more practical for entire films to be shot in this format, with Avengers Infinity War being the first to do it, The Dark Knight Rises was a major trailblazer for the large-scale presentation back in 2012. Number 12. The shooting schedule was changed to accommodate Marion Cotillard's pregnancy. When Nolan offered the part of Miranda Tate to Marion Cotillard, she promptly informed him that she was pregnant, and therefore unsure if she'd be able to accept the role. Nolan was undeterred, however, and responded by pushing Cotillard's filming schedule back by a month, allowing her to report to set a month after giving birth to her son Marcel. To further accommodate her needs, Cotillard was able to bring her family to set for the duration of the shoot, and even more impressively, Cotillard spent her downtime later in the shoot flying to France to film the romantic drama Rust and Bone. Number 11. Several elements were added in post-production to avoid spoilers leaking. The Dark Knight Rises production was notoriously leaky, with spy photos of Marion Cotillard in costume as Talia al Ghul landing online almost a full year before the movie was released. But in order to preserve some of the movie's less obvious spoilers, Nolan went to extreme measures to ensure neither passers-by nor members of the film crew could leak anything. For the climactic sequence set at Bruce Wayne's grave, the sequence was actually shot with the gravestone bearing the name Miranda Tate, while Bruce's name was digitally superimposed in post-production. Also, for the moment when John Blake is referred to by his given name Robin, the line wasn't actually spoken during principal photography, but added during a dubbing session later. This is fairly obvious once you know about it as well, given that we don't actually see the actress's face as she says it. Number 10. Two-Face was the main villain in an early story treatment. Before Batman Begins even started shooting, co-writer David S. Goyer actually outlined potential storylines for an entire trilogy of movies, including a story for The Dark Knight which was partially used but revised by the Nolan brothers. Goyer's original pitch for The Dark Knight saw Harvey Dent facially scarred at the Joker's courtroom trial, but his villainous turn would have been saved for the third movie. Goyer was going to have Two-Face be The Dark Knight Rises' primary antagonist, but Nolan decided that he wanted each film to stand as its own contained story, feeling that sequel-baiting endings were effectively cheating the audience. As much as Two-Face's arc in The Dark Knight does feel a little bit rushed, it was probably the right creative call, all things considered. Number 9. Bane's voice was based on bare-knuckle boxing champion Barley Gorman. By far the most distinctive aspect of Tom Hardy's Bane is the uniquely eccentric voice the actor employs, a howlingly deep vocal tenor with ambiguous origins. But Hardy confirmed in interviews that he actually based the voice on Irish bare-knuckle boxing champion Bartley Gorman. He said, quote, "Gorman was a bare-knuckle fighter, a Romany gypsy, so I wanted to underpin the Latin, but a Romany Latin, opposed to Latino," end quote. Amusingly, reports emerged in 2012 that Hardy's vocal performance was actually remixed, due to audiences complaining about the poor, incomprehensible quality of his dialogue when the film's prologue sequence was debuted in front of Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol. Number 8. It's heavily inspired by Charles Dickens' A Tale of Two Cities. Though it might be obvious to literary-minded viewers, others may not be aware that the film's story and themes are heavily inspired by Charles Dickens' classic novel, A Tale of Two Cities. Much like the book, Nolan's movie is centered on notions of class conflict, uprising, and heroic sacrifice, while two of the film's characters, Philip Stryver and Barsad, are also named after the novel's own. Sealing the deal is the film's epilogue, where Commissioner Gordon gives a eulogy for a presumed dead Bruce, reading the famous soliloquy from A Tale of Two Cities. Better still, keen-eyed audience members can even see Gordon holding a copy of the book when paying his respects at Bruce's grave. Number 7. Jessica Biel and Rooney Mara screen-tested for Catwoman. Unsurprisingly, the role of Catwoman was heavily sought after by some of Hollywood's biggest actresses, with the likes of Natalie Portman, Keira Knightley, Kate Mara, Gemma Arterton, Jessica Biel, Blake Lively, Lady Gaga, and Charlotte Riley all auditioning for the part. But only 3 actresses were actually invited to screen test, with the final decision coming down to Anne Hathaway, Jessica Biel, and Kate Mara. Considering that Hathaway is undeniably the most accomplished and knocks it out the park, Nolan clearly made the right decision. Number 6. Bane's chant was made from crowdsourced voice recordings. One of the most memorable elements of the movie's musical score is the infectious chant which is heard during several Bane-centric sequences and also during Bruce's escape from the underground prison. Yet the piece wasn't simply achieved by hiring a group of professional chanters, but rather by composer Hans Zimmer inviting fans of the Dark Knight saga to record themselves performing the chant and then submitting it to him. Zimmer incorporated a multitude of fan recordings into the final mixed chant heard in the film, giving the lucky anonymous winners, whoever they are, a small slice of cinematic immortality. Number 5. Donald Trump has invoked the movie while in office. Though there have been numerous reports about right-wing political figures expressing a fondness for The Dark Knight Rises' apparently pro-capitalist politics, none have proven more bewildering than that of US President Donald Trump. Back in 2017, Trump's inaugural presidential address was likened to Bane's speech in the film, where he urges Gotham citizens to take back their city, and considering that he expressed his enthusiasm for the film following its initial release, many couldn't accept it as a mere coincidence. Things got weirder in 2019 though, when Trump used part of the film's musical score for his 2020 campaign video, without first receiving permission from Warner Brothers, causing them to threaten legal action. Number 4. A stunt double smashed one of the ultra-expensive IMAX cameras. Though film productions typically rent IMAX cameras at the cost of around $15,000 per week, Warner Brothers found themselves shelling out $500,000 after one of their IMAX cameras was irreparably broken during a stunt gone wrong. While filming a sequence in which Catwoman is riding the Batpod, Anne Hathaway's stunt double crashed the vehicle into one of the pricey cameras, destroying it completely. Hilariously, this isn't the first or the last time Nolan has wrecked an IMAX camera. One was destroyed while filming the truck chase in The Dark Knight, and in Dunkirk another was strapped to a plane, which was then crashed into the ocean, requiring divers to retrieve the footage from the ocean bottom. Number 3. Ava Green, Naomi Watts, Rachel Weisz, and Kate Winslet were considered for Miranda Tate. Though Marion Cotillard was clearly fresh in Christopher Nolan's mind when it came to casting Miranda Tate, considering their prior collaboration on Inception, a number of A-list actresses were reportedly considered for the part. These include Ava Green, Naomi Watts, Rachel Weisz, and Kate Winslet before Nolan finally settled on Cotillard, who learned she'd won the role while 6 months pregnant. Number 2. That's a Lovely, Lovely Voice was improvised by Tom Hardy. One of the most bizarre and unexpectedly funny moments in the movie occurs during the sequence where Bane invades the Gotham Rogues' football game. After listening to a young boy sing the American national anthem, Bane quips, "That's a lovely, lovely voice." It's a hysterical line which fits in perfectly with Nolan's dryly witty sense of humour, but one which was actually improvised by Tom Hardy himself. The delivery is just perfect, and it underlines that Bane is more than just a brutal, humorless thug, even if he does admittedly blow up the stadium mere moments later. Number 1. Jennifer Lawrence and Chloe Grace Moretz audition for the role of Selina's sidekick Jen. A minor but memorable role in the movie sees the terrific Juno Temple play the part of Jen, a sidekick to Selina Kyle in an early portion of the movie, and who plays a part similar to Catwoman's ally Holly Robinson from the comics. But despite the brevity of the part, it was actually sought out by several on-the-rise actresses at the time, clearly keen to have a Nolan movie in their filmography. Jennifer Lawrence, who was fresh off her big break with Winter's Bone and imminently due to blow up with The Hunger Games, auditioned for the role, as did Chloe Grace Moretz, who had just come to prominence after starring in Kick-Ass. So that's our list. Want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. Have you suddenly got an itch to go and rewatch The Dark Knight Rises? Or, in general, just maybe the entire trilogy. I mean, it's pretty good, innit? Either way, while you're down there, could you give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to wowculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon.